Now we are started. Welcome everybody. My name is Anna Kaahanui. I am a Fairfax Master Naturalist. I'm so glad you're joining us tonight. I was supposed to have a co-presenter tonight, one of our colleagues, Bill Hafker. Unfortunately, he got a kidney stone this morning and is actually just getting out of surgery. So I'm hoping he's doing well, but he did email me and tell me that, he had this last minute poor medical emergency and so he asked me to go solo, which is totally fine. Happy to do it. I just hope he's okay. And thoughts and prayers for a speedy recovery for Bill. So he sends his apologies that he was not able to join us today. But I did leave some of his slides in there because he takes beautiful photographs. Okay, so let's get started. I have a lot of slides here, and if there are questions, please put them in the chat, and Ron can alert me. So an introduction to Bioblitzing, iNaturalist, and the City Nature Challenge. Oops, gotta go. There we go. So first of all, I did want to start off. This was Bill was going to be talking to us first about bioblitzing, and I just wanted to show you the beautiful pictures that he takes. He is a wonderful naturalist. He captures all kinds of great details of species, and so he was going to be speaking during the presentation about his experience with bioblitzing. But I just wanted to share some of his photos. A little bit about me. I've put the pronunciation of my last name there. It's Anna Kaahanui. You got to pronounce everything in Hawaii. And I currently live in Burke, Virginia. I'm the co-founder of Capital Nature. Some of you may have heard of it. We're a local nonprofit. Fairfax County, Fairfax Master Naturalist. My day job, 9 to 5, is the U.S. Green Building Council, where I'm a marketing manager there. I'm also a certified forest therapy guide with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides and Programs. Very, very involved with the City Nature Challenge. So I'm so excited to be talking. I could talk about the City Nature Challenge all day. And I've been on the regional leadership DC team for about 5 years now. And then also we have a nice collection of organizations that make up the Washington Area Citizen Science Network, and I'm on that steering committee. So just really quickly, just a little bit about Capital Nature, my nonprofit, in case you want to check it out and sign up for our newsletter. But basically, our goal is to connect people to the cool nature opportunities in the DC metro area, including Northern Virginia. And so what we do is we gather information about lots of other programs that people are offering, and we offer programs ourselves, and we kind of put them in a sort of a one-stop shop. So I encourage you to visit our website and click on our calendar. If you want to do something involving nature this weekend, just definitely check it out. Here's an example. We post both virtual and in-person events, and these are just some examples that we've been doing. But we offer nature and tree walks, forest bathing, and I've also been doing virtual nature immersion, so that's kind of like forest bathing over Zoom, which is kind of fun. But we really love citizen science. That's my business partner, Stella, on the right. And citizen science is just our favorite activity. We love to be involved, and we love to organize people to do citizen science. I'm assuming many of you on the call know what citizen science is, but just to give a brief overview, it's also can be called community science. It's when people get together about something they care about and gather data and share it with scientists, because the scientists can't really do all the research, and it really helps when we can crowdsource sort of all this labor of gathering data. And so anyone can do it. That's what's great about it. They volunteer their time, make observations, they collect and share data both manually and on different apps and things, and then they submit photos and collect all kinds of evidence of things. For example, the stream monitoring. And this is actually a thick picture from when my class did some stream monitoring over at Riverbend. And so that's an example of doing some citizen science when you're gathering specimens here, making measurements, making calculations of, to monitor stream health. Why is it important? Well, it's connecting us to nature. We're contributing to research, and it's supporting the community and the environment. And I'm going to be saying these things. That's going to be a common theme throughout this presentation. It's all about connecting us to nature. So BioBlitz is an intensive survey in a specific area. It's making an inventory of species in a determined period of time. It could be a month. It could be 24 hours. And why would we have it? Well, it helps you create a species list of a particular area if you want to know like what exists in this particular geographic area. It helps our parks and cities make land management decisions. For example, my friend Alonzo Abagadas, who I'm sure many of you know as one of our instructors, the Capital Naturalist, they use data from iNaturalist to help them with invasive management because they see so many, if they see X amount of observations on iNaturalist, they can go and make adjustments to their work and their projects. It teaches us about our local nature. Some people live here and don't really know what's around us, so exploring that biodiversity, and then building community. So it's all about not only getting out for ourselves, but getting out with others. And I kept a couple of Bill slides in here. Because I love his pictures and what he had to say. And as he said, it's a perfect pandemic pastime. And that's why they've really had an uptick in using iNaturalist over during the pandemic. Everyone's had some extra time on their hands. Being able to get outdoors, you can do it anywhere. You could literally just do it in your backyard, on your front stoop, on your balcony, from your window. You don't have to go far. Nature is not far. And that's a misconception. People think like, oh, to do nature, I need to get in a car and go somewhere. And that is not the case. Basically, nature's everywhere. It's all around us. It offers us an opportunity to get outside, exercise, learn photography. So many of us use and take pictures of of nature and things with our phones, and it gives us a lot of practice opportunities. And the fact that the value of contributing to science. And then what you need when you're doing a BioBlitz, you need definitely walking or hiking shoes or whatever mode of transportation, like a kayak or a boat, interest in what you're looking at, maybe do a little bit of research before you go, find out what policies your work might be affecting, and just having a smartphone or a camera with the iNaturalist app and cameras to take pictures so that you can capture data. And Bill was going to take this time to explain or kind of go over or recall his BioBlitz experiences. And he obviously is a really experienced BioBlitzer, participating in the City Nature Challenge, a global socially distanced BioBlitz that everyone was involved in, and then even the Virginia Biodiversity Project. And so if you can see the numbers of observations that Bill made and how many species he was able to identify, and I think that's remarkable. Some of the BioBlitzes that I participated in, I love participating in the Anacostia River BioBlitz. It's great. You go down, we usually go to Kingman Island, Kingman and Heritage Island. I'm a mushroom nerd, slime mold nerd. And so I point out in this slide here that in 2019, there were 0 slime molds identified or observed, but by the next year we had at least 3. And if you look at the fungi there, 23 species were identified in 2019 and then 113 in 2020. And I like to say I contributed to some of that because I love finding fungi. Possibly people on the phone, I'm sure, may have participated in this one that happened last year, the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust Nearby Nature BioBlitz. It was a month long and it was super fun. You basically could be making observations all month as long as you're within the boundaries of Virginia. A couple of years ago, we did the Fairfax County Bug BioBlitz, which was super fun. Just getting people out into the county, trying to find bugs and see what kind of bugs were around in our area parks. That was super fun. I loved participating in the Virginia Herpetological Survey. It was a 24-hour, I believe, and I went to Huntley Meadows, which was a perfect place, obviously, to go and see herps. Some of those appreciation weeks that happen throughout the year, there's Bat Week, there's the Cricket Crawl, Cricket Crawl was like a one-night thing where we got some training in advance on a Zoom on how to identify 6 different species of crickets. And then on the night, everyone was called to go out and listen for the sounds and then report back what species they heard out of the 6. So that was super fun. And then I just wanted to alert you to, since we have the impending doom of the cicadas, there is a fun app out there called the Cicada Safari app. And there's a local East Coast university that's created it, and basically they're asking people that as the cicadas start to emerge, start reporting it much like you would on iNaturalist, but report it on their app because they're going to kind of map the emergence of the great cicadas that are coming out. But the most important thing is to have fun, just be, you're out there and just find an activity in citizen science that's fun. If you're into, like there's the folks in the middle are doing the mussels in the Anacostia River, if it's birding, if it's pulling invasive plants, if it's doing stream monitoring, just find something that's fun for you. So what's iNaturalist? Basically, it's an app. It's a free app. It's a social platform. It's a place where you can record stuff that you see in nature. You can connect with other people that love nature. And like I said, you can contribute to science. And this woman here is one of my mentors. Her name is Melanie Chukas Bradley. She is a naturalist in the DC area. She's written 7 books. She's also a forest bathing guide, and she leads walks throughout the season at Theodore Roosevelt Island and Rock Creek Park, and for the botanical gardens. So if you definitely check out her website, melaniechucasbradley.com, because she's got fabulous programs. So basically, if you have a smartphone, that's all you need to be able to take a geotagged photo and share it. That's pretty much the nuts and bolts of iNaturalist. I like to, when I'm introducing iNaturalist to people, I like to say, do you like taking pictures with your phone? of nature? Well, if you do, how would you feel if you could contribute to science with your photo? And that pretty much blows people away. Like, oh wow, I could contribute to science. So that's what really got me I'm a photographer, and so getting that information that what I take pictures of could contribute made me really happy, and I wanted to spread the word about that. So the first step is starting your account. It's free, available for both iPhones and Android phones. I love that it's cross multiple platforms. So while you're pretty much using your phone for the most part when you're out making observations, the desktop interface has many more tools. It's very robust, and we're going to get to a point where I think I'm going to jump onto the website and just kind of click around on a couple things to show you that. So an observation, it makes up these elements here. It records who you are as the observer, what you saw, when you saw it, evidence of what you saw, which is usually a photograph or multiple photographs or sound recordings, and then where you saw it. So it's geotagged. So, and it's important to note that an observation is an encounter between a human and an organism, either living or evidence of an organism at a particular place and time. So here's an eastern painted turtle that I saw at Huntley Meadows, and I made an observation. And I have people on iNaturalist that have verified that with me and confirmed that. If I had seen this turtle 2 hours later at Huntley Meadows, that could be a separate observation. So it's okay to make multiple ones. When you make an observation, you're going to, and just to note that the interface and the little buttons and things that you click on for iPhone or an Android are slightly different, but it's all the same. There might be a plus sign or a camera button to take a picture of what you're looking at. And it'll ask you like, is this picture okay? And if not, take another one. I'm going to get a good clear picture. You're given the option in that second panel there, a plus sign means you could take more pictures. So maybe a close up of the leaves or where it hits the ground, or close-ups of the petals, that type of thing. And it's going to record all of this information, as we just said on the last slide, the date, the location. That third panel there, it's going to start making some recommendations, and let's talk about how that works. So how does it work? So right now, the folks at iNaturalist have 90 million photos in their database, but they are actually only working with 30 million right now. And so based on all of those photos, they're able to kind of match up using artificial intelligence to try to get a close guess on species, the species that you've submitted. And so they'll say, well, we're pretty sure it's in this area. If it's a picture of something like a sweet gum ball, which is like nothing else looks like it except a sea urchin, it's probably going to say, we think this is a sweet gum ball. But if it's something like a violet like this, and there's so many different types, it's going to give its top 10 species guesses. And the recommendation is to guess what you think is the biggest match. If you don't know, then just pick violets. And there are other people, 1.5 million other people on the app using it that are going to help you make that identification if you can't do it yourself. Even if you didn't know this was a violet, if you just put on here that this was a plant or a dicot, that would be a clue to the folks that love plants and identifying them. They would go see that like, oh, Anna has an unknown plant, and they would identify it for me. A verifiable observation contains a date, it's georeferenced, has photos or sounds, and it isn't a captive or cultivated organism. And I have a slide to cover that in a second. And so there are different levels of identification iNaturalist. So the goal is to get to research grade. So needs ID is when you just put it up there and you don't make any guesses. It's just a big old question mark. Casual is, it might be something that's captive or cultivated, meaning it's a house pet, or it's your planted pot, your planted rose. And research grade is when at least two out of three people have agreed on what the taxon is. And so here's my latest list of observations, and some of the research grade ones. I'm a bird nerd, so I like to take a lot of bird pictures. These are probably all at Huntley Meadows. And so when you go onto the interface on the website, you can see your number of observations, the number of species that you've identified to date, how many things you've identified for others, and those different types of stats. And I'll show you that when we go on the desktop tour. In fact, we'll go on the desktop tour now. So let's see if I can get over there. Okay, so here is my desktop and here's my dashboard. And so it gives you an opportunity to, you put in a picture, you put in a little bit about yourself, you can follow people. I mentioned that this is a social platform. So you're meeting people. I have met so many cool people online through iNaturalist, and some of which I've met now in person, which is great. And so I can click on my observations tab here. And I have some things that I've uploaded and maybe not, I think that's mugwort. I haven't identified that yet. Anyway, so I can look at my different observations and I can look at them in different ways. I can look at them as a list and where I did it. I can look at a grid. I can look at it in map view, where are all my observations, and they obviously are all all in the Virginia area. Let's go back out of that. Let's see, let's go back to my dashboard. I'm using a crazy mouse, which is not cooperating with me right now. Thanks. There we go. Projects. So one of the keys to getting involved with what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the City Nature Challenge, is joining a project. And so projects are set up in iNaturalist. So you can search for projects by type. If you're into dragonflies, you could join a dragonfly project. If you're into a certain regional area, like if you go to Rock Creek Park a lot, you could join the Rock Creek Park project. You could start your own project. So I'm just going to click on projects here. And these are all the different projects that I've participated in. I'm going to go actually to the City Nature Challenge 2021, which is this one here. And currently we have 105 people that have joined this project. Anyone, once you have an iNaturalist account, can join the project, and we encourage you to do that. So that just means we're able to keep track of how many people are participating in this particular project. And a project is defined by dates, geographic area, and what taxa. So all taxa is up for grabs in the DC metropolitan area. Anybody can join. So I highly recommend you checking that out. I wanted to also mention that on the website, you can find other people. So for example, I'm going to go up to the community button here. And if I wanted to find people, so I click on people, and I can go in this search thing and let me look for my friend. I'll go Isabella Farr. I don't know if Isabella's on the call or not, but she is an awesome naturalist in Fairfax. I'm going to click on her and search for her. And so I get to her little page and I can look at her observations. And I Isabella makes a lot of observations. Obviously, she's made almost 30,000. She was one of the top observers in the City Nature Challenge. She probably was the top one actually last year. And so when I'm looking for pictures for things, for presentations or whatever, I always pop her an email and say, oh, Isabella, can I use one of your pictures? So that's how you can, so I am following Isabella socially. You can look up projects. Let's see what else. Explore. So I did a little search earlier where I just put in Fairfax County because I wanted to see where I've already pulled these numbers, but for Fairfax County, to date, over 260,000 observations of over 7,500 species by over 6,500 people. I'm sorry, that's people that have identified things, and then 7,000 people have made observations. So to just clarify this, when you're making an observation, when you're submitting, you're an observer, but you can also just go on here. Let's say you're really good at mosses. You could literally go onto iNaturalist and you can also be an identifier. So you could go ahead and do a search for mosses. And if there are ones that needed some verification and your mosses, you could go through and say, yep, that's a star moss. Or here, so someone put a flowering plant here, but they don't know what it is. So someone's going to need to come and help them. And so something like this is unknown. That's not super helpful. It's better to put something that you at least it's a plant, at least it's a bug, at least it's a bird that helps people get to where they need to go. So and then I also wanted to show in terms of people verifying your observations. I'm going to click on here. So I click on my sort of like messages, and I can see all these different people, and I don't know any of these people have made added identifications to my observation. So these are just people all around the world, nature lovers like me, that have looked at my observations and helped me identify them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of this and go back to our presentation. So that was a quick desktop tour. Definitely want to check that out. So what to observe? I would start with things that you love. I mentioned that I love fungi, I love butterflies. So I start taking pictures of things that, are things that I'm drawn to. What are you noticing? I think I mentioned that I'm a certified forest therapy guide, and one of the things that we do when we're going on these guided meditative walks is we slow down to notice things. And so, one of my favorite things to notice in the spring is the emergence of these fuzzy leaves and little buds. And I just love looking at the details of them when I'm traveling, when I'm walking my dog or on the trails, doing a nature hike. Some things are super easy to ID. This tulip tree leaf, it's very indicative. Everybody knows pretty much. So the AI can pick that up really quickly. If it was an oak leaf, maybe not so much because there's so many different types of oak leaves. The sweet gumball, same thing. There's only a sea urchin pretty much is the only thing that kind of looks close to that. So, that's easy to identify. But some things are easy to photograph because they don't move away from you. So these beautiful bluebells, Virginia bluebells, or one of my favorite observations to date is this is a zombie fly. So this is a fungus that has inhabited a fly and then taken it over, controlled its mind, compelled it to go to the end of this little stalk here and hold on, and then it basically was born out of it, so it kind of burst out of it. So the zombie fly. So that to me, I know it's a little macabre, but when I first saw this, I thought, oh, that's so weird. This fly's not moving. And then when I realized what I had seen, I was really excited. So that's a zombie fly. It's a type of fungus. Other things are not so easy to get pictures of, such as things that are moving very quickly. However, if you start giving yourself some time and noticing behaviors of things, for example, dragonflies, they like to perch, and they like to perch in the same spot. So if you see something perching there, a dragonfly, and it buzzes away when you walk up, just stand there very still, and it most likely will come back to that perch, unless you're being kind of crazy and disturbing it. So if you just get to know the behaviors of the different species that you're photographing, that'll help you get pictures. Same with birds. Really hard to get sort of in focus pictures of birds, like all aspects of them. This one, I just kind of got the face. You can tell it's a cardinal. If I had just gotten the tail, that could be maybe confused with a scarlet tanager or something like that. So sometimes you might have to get a couple pictures to do the composite to help people identify your photos. Wild versus captive cultivated. So the City Nature Challenge focuses on things that are wild. That means things that were not planted, things that are not domestic. So this is my dog Lonnie, and while she thinks she is a wild animal, she is not. And so if I were to submit this photo to iNaturalist, there's a little box that says captive cultivated, so that iNaturalist knows that this is not a wild animal. Same with this bonsai tree and the slipper orchid from a botanical garden. These are not things that are found in the wild, and so I have marked them as such, captive cultivated. Also, I love to share that signs and remnants or any evidence of life is fair game for the City Nature Challenge. It doesn't have to be an intact species. It could be a skull, skin, a piece of something, a feather, footprints, a den, scat, um, carcasses. It could be anything, and so nests. And so all of these things, if you get enough detail on your pictures that you think that people who know these species very well will be able to identify them, then it's fair game for it's any evidence of life. And I mentioned audiophiles. So for example, most of us know that, with the crows around here, we have the fish crows and the American crows, and pretty much they look so closely alike. And so pretty much the way to tell them apart is by their call. And so if you happen to make an audio recording on your phone, let's say you submit the picture of the crow, but then you could also submit an audio file. And then you can say, like, based on this audio file, this is a fish crow. And same with things like the cicadas and the calls of different things, capturing those sounds too could help with your identification. Help other people verify. So tips for observing. You want to get close. You definitely want to get a species in context, like where is it? Is it on a tree? Is it on the ground? Is it in a rock, under a rock? Where is it? But also getting close-up pictures are also very important. The next series of pictures that we're going to see, I co-presented with Katja Schultz from the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. She is a bug specialist and an amazing photographer, especially macro photography. And so she's given me permission to use some of her photos in this presentation. Being in focus, super important. If you take that fuzzy photo, don't submit a fuzzy photo to iNaturalist. We don't like that. So just wait a second, just delete it and take another one. Get one so that you get some detail. Select your focus. You don't want to just walk down a trail and hold your phone up, up to the trees or to the shrubs and bushes and take a picture and submit it, because that could be multiple species and the people on iNat won't know what you're trying to identify. And so you want to be really close, you want to get in close and be really apparent. You don't want to have multiple species in a photo. Separate your subject if you can. Sometimes I'll carry around like a piece of paper or cardboard, and I'll put it behind something, or even put your hand behind something so that it doesn't get all the other stuff in the background, so that you can really focus on the details. Capturing details. So really getting really close details like this are going to help people make those valid confirmations. Getting different perspectives, getting down at the level of the organism, different angles. Typically just shooting down isn't so great. So if you can kind of vary your views, that's great. Working with others. I love birding. This is me. I take my godson and his brother birding, and we'll look together, and you can help find things together. And that's one of the things that I love about citizen science and the City Nature Challenge, is because it is multi-generational. A whole family could be out. Mom could be holding the camera. The little kids are low to the ground, so they can get to stuff. They can identify. They can say, "Look, mommy, there's a beetle." Maybe grandma's holding the leaf that they're taking a picture of. So it's multi-generational, and I love that. Here are some of my favorite things to observe. I love trees and shrubs. I'm a huge dendrophile. And so when you're doing a tree observation, it's really important to get several photos. And so you want to get the leaves on top and bottom if you can. If there's a difference, say with a magnolia leaf, it looks different on the bottom. Getting a detail of the bark, getting a detail of the nuts, seeds, or fruits, and getting a picture of the overall shape of the tree. All of these things are going to help get a positive identification. Mushrooms. People a lot of times just shoot down at a mushroom. Oh, look at this cute little mushroom. Well, you got to get underneath the mushroom. And so I carry around this little cosmetic mirror. And so I can get underneath so I can see the gills without disturbing the specimen. I love butterflies. And as we know, they're often look different from the top and from the side. And so getting those pictures of both angles is going to help you. Dragonflies and damselflies, you'll start recognizing their postures. In the middle there, we have one that's obelisking. It's standing up in an obelisk shape. So that's what that particular species does. And so, get your pictures, get the patterns or their behaviors. On the right, we have some damselflies that are they're about to mate, I guess. Yeah. And birds, get birds in there, the dimorphic birds, that have the males that look different from the females, pretty easy to identify. Get birds in different, this great blue heron, I think, was hunting over here by Lake Barton. And so you just, if you just, whatever you love, just go out and find them. A couple tips and reminders. Be really careful to, not disturb microhabitats. If you happen to gently roll a log over to see if there's a salamander or something under it, gently roll it back. Bring a phone charger if you're going to be in the field for a long time. I'll talk about using up power in a second. Bringing something for scale, like a coin or a ruler, the mirror that I mentioned, a hand lens, a flashlight, or something to put more light on your subject. And like I mentioned, a piece of paper or cardboard to separate your subject. And so, yeah, so you can go into your settings and you can set it up of whether or not you want it to automatically upload or auto sync like while you're in the field, or if you just want to do all this stuff and then sync it when you get home, when you're on Wi-Fi, or where you're connected, so that if you want to save your data. You can also select your geo-privacy, and that'll basically for City Nature Challenge, you want something to be open. I think obscured also works, but private. Let's say you're making some observations in your home, in your backyard, and it's going to show up with probably your address or something, and you don't want that on iNaturalist. No problem. You can mark it private. Just note that wouldn't be able to contribute to the BioBlitz, because people can't verify that it's within the boundary if they don't know where it is. And then if you need help at iNaturalist, they have a really great support. They have their help folks, they have a forum, and then also you can tag people. So for example, I have made friends with certain iNat users that are specialists in certain taxa. And so you can tag them. So for example, there's some of you may know, there's a high school student named Luca in Fairfax who is great at herps. And so like whenever I make any herps observations, if I'm not really sure, I tag him in my observation, say, hey, Luca, is this really a painted turtle? And he can get back to me and tell me what he thinks. So what happens with the data? You're probably curious, like, okay, this is weird. We're collecting all this stuff. Where's it going? So there's something called GBIF, which is the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, sort of a clearinghouse for data of all different types. And so iNaturalist sort of has a relationship with GBIF that all of the research grade data that's collected gets sent to GBIF, and people can go. It's an open site that anybody can go to. If you're doing a report on something, you can gather data from GBIF. So millions of data points, and it definitely helps out with conservation. So it's a great way to see your work in action. And also we can track phenology, the study of the timing of biological events. We're noticing that as observations as the years go by, things are coming out earlier or later based on climate change. And so all of this information is really helpful to scientists. Also, I thought this was really cool. My friend Carrie from iNaturalist, who is local here in DC, but she works for iNaturalist, she gave this example of, it was the fact that so many folks in iNaturalist had submitted great photos of these dragonflies that this person was able to, write this paper and come up with some different, what's the word, make some determinations based on the data they found. And so that was pretty cool. They didn't have to go and do all that data themselves. They were able to pull it from iNaturalist. And also, it'll be cool. Sometimes you'll be on there and you'll see some people making some comments on your observations. And I was really thrilled that the Maryland Biodiversity Project saw this this wasp picture that I took and decided to, like, hey, let's put this in the project. So that made me really happy. That's something that I didn't actively do that. They actually were searching, they found it and added it to their project. Also, I was really pleased to be asked to submit this photo for the Socrates project, which is the poisonous plants of Virginia, through University of Virginia. And so that was great. That's something that I observed could help out with that. So how's Fairfax County and Virginia doing in iNaturalist? Let's find out. Virginia, as of today, 66,000 observations of over 9,000 species, over 12,000 people making identifications, and over 25,000 people making observations. In Fairfax, this is Fairfax County, look at the number of observations. We have a major chunk of Virginia, so we should be really proud of that. Same with species number, look at that, very close. We have half the identifiers, and looks like a little more than, it's like a third or fourth of the observers. And I just kind of pulled up some sample research grade observations as of today. Mayapple, coot, the Decay's brown snake. So all different types of things that people are observing, birds, plants, things that are invasive, which again helps out the land managers, birds and such. And especially, I know for bird nerds like myself, like when you hear that someone's observed some X species of bird, if you see it on iNaturalist, then you can see where it was, and then you can decide if you want to go try to check it out yourself. So I wanted to stop here and see if there are any questions. I haven't been able to see the chat or anything, but I just wanted to see, Ron, are there any questions or anything?
No, we had one question that was answered.
Okay, good. How am I doing? How am I doing on time? I didn't even look at the time.
7:36.
Okay, great. All right, let's get going on still. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so an introduction to the City Nature Challenge. This is my friend Sage. He's a local forest bathing guide, and he's making an observation downtown DC. So what are we going to be doing for the City Nature Challenge? Well, over 400 cities will be looking for signs of wildlife and evidence of wildlife in local parks, backyards, stoops, community gardens, and neighborhoods. And so the key is to really just stress on local, nearby. You don't have to go far. Find out what's in your backyard. How many weeds are in your backyard? How many bugs are in your backyard? How many pollinators are coming to your backyard? Or if you don't have a backyard, what bugs are coming to your patio plants? That type of thing. We're encouraging everybody to join this community. So we just have all these pictures of all these people that have participated. And there's Bill in the bottom there. He was supposed to present today, so we're missing Bill. But we have all different kinds of folks. Anyone can participate in this, which is great. Why do it? Again, more time outdoors. You can use iNaturalist. You'll learn about more stuff. You're going to help science. You're expanding your social network. And then the City Nature Challenge has been sort of like a friendly competition. However, because of the pandemic, we're not really treating it as a competition. It's kind of like a friendly, it's not cutthroat or anything. We in DC pride ourselves of being usually the leader on the East Coast, out of the East Coast cities. metropolitan areas, and we hope to keep that afloat this year. But it's not like everybody's out to be number one. Here are the major dates going on for the City Nature Challenge. I have the website up there, which is the local website. So there's a global website. So if you took out DC, just put out citynaturechallenge.org. That's the global site. If you want to find out, like, let's say you have relatives in California and you want to tell them about the City Nature Challenge, there's, definitely something going on over there. And that's where we have resources. We have webinars. We have lists of events that are happening, trainings like this. And so you definitely want to check that out. And then here's just a smattering of the organizations in the region that are helping with organizing events and virtual trainings and such. This year, years past, we've all led like naturalist walks at different parks. We're not doing that this year. We're not planning big organized groups or anything. There's some small bubbled groups going out and doing things, but no big events. And then really quickly, just to give you a back history of the City Nature Challenge, it started when the California Academy of Sciences and the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles challenged each other to a friendly competition like, hey, over this like 4 days in 2016, let's see how many people we can get outside using iNaturalist, and let's see who can get the most with the most number of species and people. And so it was so popular that they decided to invite other cities the next year. And so they invited DC joined the next year, and that's when I got involved. And notice the jump in numbers. We go from 20,000 to 125,000 observations. And it was still national. Next year we went international. We were in 17 countries. And notice the exponential growth of this event. 2019 we were up to 159 cities in 28 countries, almost 1 million observations. And then 2020, even the pandemic, we had 244 cities participate. Everybody had to cancel all their events, but look how many observations were made. More species were identified, even though less observations were made. And then this year, we're in over 400 cities in 43 countries. And so here's a sort of different. In 2019, everything was sort of a big group. That's folks, the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. In the hat there, that's Katya, the one who takes the beautiful photos. They're with Corazon Latino at Rock Creek Park. Down below, actually, that's Katya with her photos again when we were doing a presentation at the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. On the right, it went to solo during pandemic. So on with the mask, that's my business partner, Stella. And she's at this moss wall near her home in Mount Pleasant, where she likes to observe every year. My friend's little girl who's a birder, and then Vince, some of you guys might know Vince. He is an arborist for Arlington County, and he was making some observations just in his backyard. Where do we observe? So this is the DC metro area, the map. So it includes all the different counties in Northern Virginia, DC, and then a few counties in Maryland as well. So that's basically, if you use iNaturalist between the 4 dates that I mentioned, April 30th to May 3rd, and you make an observation within the boundaries of here, it's going to show up. It's going to show up. Like, we're going to see it. Even if you join the project or not, we'll still see it. But we still would like to encourage people to go and join, just so that we can, again, keep numbers of active participation. How did we do last year? So we decided, I'm on the sort of like regional team, right? We decided, well, heck, we're all home. Why do it for just 4 days? Why don't we do it for the whole month of April? And look what we did. The month of April, 68,000 observations were made. People really got into it because they had nothing else to do, because everybody was stuck at home. So these numbers were great. We were thrilled that we were able to still have the challenge despite the pandemic and despite the cancellation of all of our in-person events. These are the numbers for the whole for the global one. So 815,000 observations made globally, 32,000 species documented, including 1,300 rare and endangered species. That's so exciting when things that are rare and endangered come to light. People get really excited about that. And then over 40,000 people participated. These, for our area and the DC challenge, these are the top 10 species observed last year. So take a look at that. We got our Iggy garlic mustard, but then we got our lovely mayapple. So we have quite an assortment, but these were the things that were most identified for our challenge last year. And these are things that all of us, I'm sure on the call, are familiar with. Now, I wanted to mention this one. I mentioned Luca, who is the student in Fairfax. He recorded a white spotted slimy salamander, which hadn't been seen in Arlington County since 1977. So that was an observation that sort of made the City Nature Challenge news, along with some of the other rare finds. So we were super, super proud and super excited for Luca that he made that observation. We also have a leaderboard, so you can, as you make observations, as you can see, the Capital Naturalists, we got Alonzo at the top of there. We like to tease him about that because he's always out for work anyway, so he's making lots of observations. Anyway, so by observations and species, and then we look at how many species so we observed, and so we kind of keep tabs on that and show people. Sample activities. Again, you can do it individually, just go out by yourself, or with a safely distanced group or bubble or family group. You can create your own place, and I think that's really cool. One of our colleagues, so basically you can go on and create a place. Let's say it's your elementary school campus and you're going to be doing this with the kids at school. You could just make a place using the geographic boundaries of that school and just create a project. They've just added a rule that you have to have like 50 observations made there first before you can sort of create a place, but still I think it's a pretty cool thing to do. And Carrie, my friend that I mentioned from iNaturalist, she decided to make a place for her own yard. And these are her observations. She's made over 1,800 observations in her own yard of 433 species. And I just think that's amazing. Also, I did a presentation for the Burke Center Library because they did this beautiful pollinator garden last year. And while all of these things are planted and not really up for grabs for City Nature Challenge, there are definitely going to be stuff on them. So we'll get to that in a second. So here is the place that we set up. It's the geographic boundary of the library. And you can see the observations that have been made so far. And so these things were planted there, very beautiful flowers. Again, if they are, if you want to do a project, like if the Burke Library, they have their own project where they can keep track of all the different flowers that they have in their pollinator garden. But you can look for things on the plants. So like this 7-spotted lady beetle or this maple leaf tar spot. So things that are on things are fair game. We also have resources for educators and caretakers. So the global website, citynaturechallenge.org, has a tab or a button there that says Education Toolkit, and it's for all different ages. They have it bracketed by age groups. So you definitely, if you're an educator or you're working with children, definitely check that out. Note that a child has to be 13 years or older to have their own account. This middle picture here, one of the women at a school in Prince William County, Miss Landry, she, for her biology class, I think it was maybe like an AP bio class or something, she set up a project just for her students, and they all participated, which I thought was cool. And then it was also mentioned in another webinar that we've done for educators that there's an app called Goose Chase where you can take data from iNaturalist and then create scavenger hunts for fun for the kids.
Hello, Anna.
Yes.
Got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So Suzanne asks, on the phone app, I find City Nature Challenge 2021.
Okay.
No way to select DC metro area, question mark?
Well, there should be a project that is specifically named Washington, DC metro area in it. I'm gonna look on my phone now, but when you go to projects, there should be one that's specific. So is the question that they don't see the DC one? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just looking in project. Oh, another cool thing when you're on your phone, I don't know if you guys have your phones and you have it loaded up, but there's a tab on the phone that says nearby. And so that'll show you all the projects that are nearby you in your geographic area. So let's see, I'm looking at the ones I've joined. Yeah, so I think if that person is having trouble joining that, if I could just get that person's information and I can follow up offline and make sure that person can join.
Okay, and then Julie wants to confirm that you don't need a special camera, that an iPhone or a phone camera is fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely. There's any phone camera will do. I can tell you, I didn't mention this before, but there are kind of like two ways of doing this. You can go and make observations, take your phone, click add observation. I I take so many pictures that I'm going to take, like, let's say I go out today, I'll take 100 pictures and then I'll come back and I'll add them to iNaturalist later, like, you know, group by group. Like if I took 5 pictures of a cardinal, I'll go and I'll add those 5 pictures to iNaturalist. So you don't have to note that you don't have to make these, you don't have to submit everything to iNaturalist necessarily on site, but if you need to make sure that your pictures are geotagged, that it shows what time and where you took it. So you want to make sure that your location services are activated when you're taking those photos, so that when you do add that photo to iNaturalist, so for example, I can go into my, I'm an Android user, I can go into my gallery, I can pick a photo and I can share it. I can say share with who, share it to iNaturalist, and it's going to suck it up into iNaturalist and it will automatically populate the date and time and location and that type of thing. So you can do it that way. And then some people use professional cameras where they're out there with their beautiful cameras taking lots of pictures. Same thing. You can come home and you can put that memory card in your computer and upload them and use the desktop interface to add all those pictures to iNaturalist. I hope that answered the question. Any other questions, Ron?
Nope. And in fact, Susan found the project
You found the project? Oh, great.
for
There's so,
DC.
there's
So
so
she's up and
many.
running.
There's so
She's up
many,
and
so
running.
I can see how it would be confusing. Yeah, there's lots. I mean, we've been doing it now. This is our 5th year, and yeah, and ours is, you know, the title is really long, like Washington Metro DC area or something like that. So it's kind of hard to find. Okay, so I was just talking about, we had done a webinar last year called Exploring Nature with Kids, and so I'm just mentioning this because on our resources page on the local site, there's a link to this webinar. So if you have if you know a teacher or somebody that's working with kids or caretakers, they might want to go watch that and get some tips on how to work with kids.
Okay, and there is another question came in from Barbara, and she wants to know how dated can you still submit dated photos that are
Okay, that's a very good question. So for the City Nature Challenge, for that particular BioBlitz, the pictures need to be taken during that 4-day period. So you can't, if it's 2 days before, it's not going to count. So, but for iNaturalist, if you're just like, let's say you already have, like, let's say you've taken, I don't know, hundreds of pictures of trees, and you decide, well, I want to put this on iNaturalist. You can do that. It won't be part of the City Nature Challenge, but it'll be part of your observations. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. That's nice.
Hope that answered the question? Okay, I think I'm almost done here. Virtual, was there any more, Ron? We're good? I think you're muted, so I'm gonna guess that's yes.
yeah, we're good. I just have an uncooperating mouse as well.
No worries. Yeah, so my mouse is going. I had to switch my mouse out. I was going crazy. I wanted to mention that in years past, we've done these really fun events at the Natural History Museum. Again, one of our partners with this, where we've gone to the Natural History Museum and we've sat around with specimens and experts and books and tried to identify things. But because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. So last year, we did a virtual ID party. So we basically had everybody on a Zoom, and then we had breakout rooms based on taxa that you're interested in. So if you're interested in birds, you could go in the bird group. I went into the lichen and moss group, and we'll have specialists in each of those groups. And basically what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be pulling up all the observations that where people just put nothing, or just put plant, or just put mushroom, and then helping to identify those things. So we're kind of group identifying together, and we're learning, which is great. And so we actually have scheduled this year for May 5th. And so that's some information that I'll be sharing with Janet to share with the rest of the group, because I don't have the Zoom link and stuff for that yet, but we'll have, like, it'll be free, an event, it'll be an Eventbrite link that people sign up for. So we're having a virtual ID party. Questions? Yeah, do we have any more questions?
There's no more questions in the chat.
Great. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a couple other things. So what do you do next? Sign up for iNaturalist, obviously. Visit the local website that I've been showing you that has DC in the title. Join the project, which it sounds like some of you are doing, so I'm super excited, and start making observations. Just go out and start doing it. Also, we have social media. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, please definitely post at us, those, like if you get that great, and definitely people pictures. I manage sort of all the pictures that we get. And so I love taking pictures of people doing stuff in nature. So if you and your family or your friends or you're outside making observations, please take pictures of yourself doing it. Because that's how we can help promote it each year, showing people physically participating in the challenge. That's me. So here's my contact information if you have any questions. Again, if you're on the desktop interface and you go up to community and people, you can look for me and you can follow me. So you can see my observations and you can chat at me if like, hey, Anna, do you think this is, what do you think of this observation? Definitely please visit my Capital Nature website, which is my nonprofit. That's pretty much it. And I have a couple slides that were extra since we have some extra time. I can't believe I did all those slides in this time. I'm under 8 o'clock. I love it. I just want to mention another app or two that I use that I think is really helpful. This one's called Seek by iNaturalist, and it's one that was developed by the same folks that did iNaturalist, and it was originally designed for children and families. It wasn't geotagged, so it was literally just for learning. And what's great about it is you hold up your phone and you don't even have to take a picture. You hold your phone up and it starts to like try to identify it. I'm going to show an example of that in a second. So what's great about it is they've gamified it. You can earn badges, like you can earn the tree. They have every month they have a different type of badge. It could be like the tree badge or the bug badge or the flower badge. It tells you whether or not it's native. It tells you how many observations have been made on iNaturalist about it, sometimes how it got its name, all that kind of stuff. So here's an example. So if you just watch, this person has just held up this phone to these items, and it's identifying it just based on the artificial intelligence. So you don't even have to take a picture. So if you're out walking, hiking or something, and you're really curious about some wildflower you see, this is really helpful because it might not get a perfect identification. It might just get you down to the genus or something, or it might just get you, say, to asters, like the family, but it's going to put you in the right direction and help you. So Seek by iNaturalist is another app. So I use that one also. And what happened is after a couple years of them refining this, people started saying, well, hey, if I take a picture and Seek, can't I connect it to iNaturalist? And so they finally did it. Like a year or two ago, they said they put in a button that says, do you want to post this to iNaturalist? So they made it so that you don't have to do both. So if you happen to use Seek and you find this cool thing, they'll give you an option to add it to your iNaturalists. So they talk to each other basically, which is great. Another app that I use is called Picture This. It's for plants. I love it. It's great. It has some really cool features like interesting facts, how it got its name, poetry related to that plant, like all kinds of stuff. So it kind of gives us a little more than what iNaturalist and Seek give us. And so I use all three of those apps interchangeably when I'm out. So that's called Picture This. eBird is, if you're a birder, great, citizen science app to use to keep track of your birds. So every day when I'm walking my dog, I have my binoculars, I have eBird running, I'm able to record, I saw 4 cardinals, 3 robins, 2 turkey vultures. All of this is getting recorded. And you can use these as hours for Fairfax Master Naturalist as service hours, the citizen science hours. And then I mentioned this before, Cicada Safari, just check it out. It's kind of like, it's not a super robust app, but again, if you're gonna get into the whole cicada craziness, then definitely check that out. And then this was one that I learned about from our friends at Audubon Natural Society, the creek critters. They've come up with their own app to help with their stream monitoring program. And it was great because I was out hiking recently where somebody pulled a creek critter out and we didn't know what it was. And so I was able to kind of look it up on this creek critter. So if you're doing stream monitoring, definitely check out this app. And that's the last thing. That's the last thing for me. So thank you so
Anna,
much yeah.
Could you go over one more time, like, in order to participate in the City Nature Challenge, do you have to download the City Nature Challenge app and sign up, or can you just make observations on iNaturalist?
Good question. So first of all, there's not an app for the City Nature Challenge. The app that we're talking about is iNaturalist. So that's the tool that we're all using across the globe to make the observations. So you would definitely need to have the iNaturalist app. And then in order to participate, you literally, if you just make observations on iNaturalist within the DC metro area of the map that I showed you, if you do that and they're not marked private, the location has to be able to be seen because people can't make an identification if they don't know where it is. So as long as your privacy settings aren't set to private, then your observations will automatically be added to the City Nature Challenge. However, our little added thing is we would like people to go to the project and join it on iNaturalist. Just join it. All you do is click join. That's it. Because that is a way for us to keep track of how many people are actually intentionally participating. Like we could have during the City Nature Challenge, 3,000 people participate, but maybe 500 of those people didn't even know it was the City Nature Challenge. Like we would like to know who's actually actively doing it. So, but if you happen to make observations in that time period, those 4 days, April 30th to May 3rd, I didn't mention that there is a 5-day period after we all make our 4-day observations that's called the identification period. So, okay, now we've made all these observations. Now we got to like look at everything and try to make some identifications. So there's this 5-day period where anybody, and that could be people participating in the City Nature Challenge or not, it doesn't matter. If I make a bunch of plant observations for the City Nature Challenge and I don't know what they are, like I said, somebody in Costa Rica could identify them for me so that they're identified, great. But we as a area in DC, we are all going to work together and again have that May 5th virtual ID party where we all get together and try to identify as many as possible, because that's the goal. You want to get to research grade. You don't want to have all these casual things like plant, mushroom, bird. We want specifics, because the whole point of this is identifying species and the biodiversity. Yeah.
Great. And can you put that slide up that had your contact information?
Absolutely. There's me. So I'm Anna at capitalnature.org. Again, my website, we have if you sign up, we put a little newsletter out once a month that highlights different nature happenings in the area. It might be our favorite list of things to do in nature in the area. It might be some cool tools we're using or something like that. So we'd love to have you guys join up on that. And I know I recognized a couple names who joined, so I know some people have already signed up. So that's great. Really appreciate that.
And that's all the questions that are in the chat.
Awesome. Well, I will stop sharing my screen. And I just really appreciate everybody's time tonight, taking the time. I wanted to mention that if you, I know this was recorded, but we have 2 other programs that our regional leadership is like the same, basically. Actually a little bit of simplified version. I went into more detail than we have at 12 o'clock noon on April 12th. On Monday, we have someone at noon giving a presentation about iNaturalist and City Nature Challenge, and then another colleague doing one on the 14th at night from 7 to 8. And so if you know people that were interested in wanting to learn and can't get this recording or something, those are other opportunities that they could do to go watch and get the introduction to this. Yeah. So great. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening. Happy iNatting. I hope to see you on iNaturalist. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or anything like that. Happy to help.
It was awesome, Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Janet, I'll send you information about the virtual ID party and stuff like that. Thanks, guys.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank
Take
you.
care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Ron. I'll see you later.
That was you've got that down perfectly to 1 hour.